Hey everybody, welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding. Big Ron Partlow with Dusty Hanshaw and the producer Scott McNally. That way, there we go. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
Ring the bell.
damn, always on time, Dusty. Remember, IamMutant.com. Go to IamMutant.com. Save yourself 20%. Use Dusty20 or Big Ron20. Get yourself 20% off. There we go. And also keep us employed, make us look important. You know what I mean? Those codes coming through help us out. Mutant sponsors the show, and then they see the codes come through, and then they think, what a
Let's
great
keep
idea.
doing this. Yeah, let's keep doing this.
Right?
It's working.
So you guys aren't just supporting Mutant when you go on IamMutant.com. You're supporting the show and everything like that. You know what I mean? So it's good. It makes it worth our time and everything. It's really great that they're behind it. They love it. Enough about them. Get your ice surge, get your all in, and everyone should get on the gear. Everyone. Your mom, your grandma, everyone.
Grandma definitely needs the gear.
Oh, your grandma should be on creatine too because of the cognitive studies that are coming out. So definitely get some creatine. Yeah. Okay. What is going on, guys? What's news? Where are we? What are we doing, Scott?
We've got a question. It's one of those big title captions, which is, can Keone be beat?
Ooh. God damn, do we have the video? I think we
got the video. We got the footage here.
So there's a lot to be said about Keone. Now, the 212 is just ridiculous. I mean, look at what this class has produced in the last few years, right? I mean, technically, Hadi came out of 212. And then Derek came out of 212. And then you have two-time 212 champ Sean Clarita that wins open shows.
Yeah.
At like 185 pounds. And now you've got this guy who took the title last year. And the big criticism with Keone was that he was all potential, right? Look at the potential. Look at the potential, right? That was the word used. I remember seeing him at a show and his face didn't look dieted. I didn't even think he was dieting. And then he walked on stage and won the show. And so there was all that sort of like Keone doesn't really get where he needs to be. But then at the Olympia last year, he had enough to take the title. And I think what we're looking at here is a big step up. What do you guys think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's definitely, based on where he was last year on stage, there's no way he was this lean, this far out for that show.
Right.
The conditioning looks exactly
the glutes almost look the same.
Yeah. It's where they should be at this point to me.
Right.
So
what's this? I guess 6 weeks out.
Yep.
Yeah, his physique is flawless. I mean, the class is so deep, and no disrespect to anyone else, but I'm watching that show for two people. I want to see, because I know Sean's going to bring something extra special, and so is Keone. So it'll be a time to see the two of them at their best head-to-head. Because that's the one thing I will say is Keone won, but Sean he opened the door last year. He had some stomach issues that showed on stage. He was not his absolute best. So I want to see both of them nail it and then really see what goes on. Because I do believe that last year, Sean at his best holds the title.
Right.
Keone has made improvements, so has Sean. So it'll be really, really interesting. And as a fan, you just want to see both of them at their best and really see what shakes out.
When I watch, the thing about Clarita is when I watch him train, and I watch every video he puts up, like he pumps out a lot of content from his own private gym there, in the big baggy gasp shirts. He's wearing the big 4X gasp shirts, that go down to his knees, and he's in hack squat and stuff. And he's in there pounding it away. And I think of like how a sword craftsman in the old days, they would like fold the steel hundreds and hundreds of times to get it harder and harder and harder. And I just think of like his muscle tissue, the way he trains is just like just getting pounded into shape. Like it's just getting, I just think his condition is always, he's always like one of those granite guys, you know what I mean? And like we talk about last year, him being off, it wasn't really a condition thing. It was like he had a bit of a stomach thing, and There was a few things going on there, but like his hardness and his density is only going to get another year better. Like I can't wait to see what he looks like again. Like, a little bit more tissue. Is he going to be over 190? I don't know exactly what he weighed on stage. Like, but let's just say he's a couple pounds heavier this year, and he's even denser. And it's like another year of pounding on that sword and folding it, pounding it. And like, I just think of that when I watch him train, because that's how he trains. I mean, there's nothing gentle about Clarita's methods.
No.
So I look forward to seeing him on stage next to what can only be described as like possibly one of the most structurally gifted bodybuilders we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah. So, let's go. 212. Boom.
Yeah. I'd like to see that show break out perfectly. Whoever wins, and Keone to move up. Like, no matter what. If he wins, move up. If he loses, move up. I would like to see him move up, because I think he could stand with the open guys at 212. So I would love to know how he could stand if he could unleash it a little bit. And for all those worried, he's not going to lose his shape getting bigger. There's so much room based on his structure. I hear that all the time. It's like, that waist is not going anywhere. He's just going to get bigger. It's going to, same thing people would have thought about Derek. Oh, I don't know if he can put on the size. You can.
Yeah.
So, I would love to see him do that. And Keone, if you ever happen to hear this, I gave this advice to Derek. I'm the only one that gave it to Derek. He didn't think of it himself, and now he's won the Olympia. Some of that is a lie, and he's definitely never heard me say it.
Completely me. It was completely me. I just sent a video to the Instagram chat, Scott.
All right, let me check that out.
That's a good place to send it or not.
Yeah. All right, let me pull this up. And let me say too. Oh wait, let me pull this up first. Is this
Lunsford. I love his belt, champ.
It's great.
Damn,
that's just crazy.
What I want to know is how many people it takes to film his back. You see two of them back there? Do they have to form it together?
They piece it together afterward or
because
something.
He's too big for one camera.
Yeah,
so they actually have to bring it back is what it is. Either that or one of those guys, he doesn't even know who it is. He's just filming it for himself.
Yeah. I like how he's using, he's doing, what is that? Is that the Arsenal row?
I don't think it's the Arsenal because
I don't know which one it is.
But it looks like.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I saw the handles on it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking earlier.
I don't know, whichever one it is. But people are like, oh, yeah, okay, he's got a different handle on there. I don't know which one that is. But whatever one it is, that company's going to sell like 1,000 of them this week.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to see Lunsford. Oh, I got to get that one now,
You know what I have to say about the 212 is with Sean Clarita being under 200 pounds, it's funny to think of him under 200 pounds, considering when I think of Sean, I think of like a legit freaking mass monster.
Yeah.
How can you be a mass monster and be under 200 pounds? I don't know. My brain doesn't process that, but that's what I see. Like, he has so much muscle on muscle on muscle. I don't know. It's going to be two different physiques. And I imagine personally, my thought is that he's going to bring his absolute best. He always comes in super peeled, super hard, right?
Yeah.
So I think there is that chance that he could. Is there anybody else though that we're thinking could be in there? You guys just think it's the two of them?
Well, the 212 is a killer division because of just all the guys that get into condition to get under that weight cap.
Yeah.
And some of these smaller shows, like I've paid a bit of attention to some of the 212 this year, and
there's more than I even know. Like, there's all these guys that pop out of the woodwork. I don't even know all their names.
Like, you got guys like Jordan, and you got like Janowitz and those guys that won shows, and they're just like, they're crazy good bodybuilders.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just that these two guys, Clarita's won open shows at 185 and stuff. So it's like really hard to imagine him not being in the top two.
Didn't Keone struggle last year to get down to 212? Am I mistaken with that?
I'm not sure. I mean,
because that could be his thing, man. What if he looks great now, but then he has to, deplete so much that he doesn't look his best the day of the show?
Well, that's kind of what happened to Derek eventually, right? Derek
Right.
got too big to actually be 212 because he had to be really hollowed out to be 212, and the muscle just wasn't the same.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Keone's there yet. I don't know what he weighs in that video. Do they say?
No, I
I
don't
don't think
think
they
so.
tag his weight.
I don't think
You
so.
know?
I'll look.
You know, if
Maybe
he's 230
our listeners could tell us.
Yeah, if he's like 235, we might have a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. No, they
You
just
know?
say 40 days out, a little closer.
Yeah. But
Let us know,
these
guys. You guys at home, if you know his weight.
Yeah, there's a lot of great guys in that division. It's just like, I think it's fair that Clarita and Keone dominate the conversation.
Yeah.
Simply just because of their physiques. You know what I mean? I don't think we're looking at like a 5-way battle for the top 2 spots or anything like that. I mean, these guys are great bodybuilders, but Keone is like an absolute other level of structure and, the way he's put together. And then Clarita is like a 5'3" Ronnie Coleman.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's, like I met a bodybuilder who was like, he looked really big to me, like stacked. And he's like, oh, I'm the same height as Clarita. I'm like, oh yeah, what do you weigh? And he's like 140. And I'm like, damn, you look stacked.
Yeah.
Like delts were like out to here.
Yeah.
And I was like, so Clarita's 50 pounds of tissue heavier than you. It's like the guy was so tiny. I was like, Jesus.
Yeah.
It's like 100 pounds of muscle on my frame.
I think what makes Clarita so wild is even knowing him and being around him a ton, when even, and again, and then you're at Dino's and he takes his shirt off and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember when you guys,
How is that
when
under there?
when everyone was up at our gym training, there was like, there's the members that kind of know the bodybuilding like around the gym, and when there's someone famous in the gym, they don't really know who they are, but they know they're famous because there's a camera pointed at them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're usually
People
like
asking
really
them-
big too.
And there's
freaky
people asking
looking.
them for pictures. So
Yeah.
like some of the more normal members, like the office crowd at noon that were in there while you guys were filming and stuff, they're like, that guy's square. He looks like the one guy said he looks like a Rubik's cube. Like in a shirt,
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
it's
looks
about
like
right.
a Rubik's cube in a shirt. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty much what it looks like.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
He's as tall as he is wide as he is thick. It's
Yeah.
all the same.
Rubik's
Yeah.
cube with a big 4X gasp shirt over it. Yeah. So
Yes. Very good.
and it takes a lot to impress me when I sit at a table with somebody.
Yeah.
Like I've sat and ate, like, I had Burger King with Nasser when I was young. So I know what a big dude at a table looks like. I mean, I sat and ate with Greg Kovacs.
Yeah.
I know how big people look at tables with like trays in front of them eating. And I sit with Clarita and watch him eat out of his dish. And I just think, God, there's no room on you. Like there's no open space.
I didn't.
Your ear is like touching your delt and like, your forearm is like mashed into your bicep and your Tupperware dish looks like really tiny and you're between your forearms and, just that sort of stuff. It's funny.
Somebody commented, I didn't screen cap it. I just saw the comment yesterday, but they said something about, you were talking about 90s bodybuilding. And you're like, you know what? You're too young. You look way too young to be talking about, what it was like in the 90s with how much gear and bodybuilding ages you. I'm amazed. That was the comment you got.
Well, I was speaking with a very prominent, well-known retired pro short time ago. And I said, oh, I got a calcium score test done. And he goes, oh, what was it? And I said, 30. And he goes,
Yeah.
oh, mine was 380.
Phew, okay.
And I was like, oh, maybe I didn't take nearly enough gear. I don't
You
know.
should have taken more, huh?
Everyone else's calcium score that I'm hearing is like terrible. Mine was 30. I'm like, what did I not do enough of? I don't know.
Definitely the trend.
Yeah, I was being conservative. Dusty's on mute.
That's classic. Yeah. The dogs were, there was a bone issue. There's bone issues that happen.
30. Mine was 380. Those are whether you got to pump those numbers up, son. Those are amateur numbers, right? Rookie numbers.
If you're golfing, you're winning. If you're bowling, he wins.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, I'll be 49 in October, just to remind everybody.
Yes.
how creaky I am.
You lose that weight I put on you yet?
Most of it. Yeah, I was 239 the other day in the morning, and then I went out for a meal, so I'm probably over again. But yeah, I got most of it down.
You got to get that down. 6 weeks for putting it back.
Yeah, I know. I have to.
That was only one day. We got 4 for this one.
Constantly and chronically diet just to be friends with Dusty occasionally.
Yeah, you got to deplete for weeks at a time.
A few times that we see each other, he's got to prepare for them.
Like, where are we going to eat? And I'm expecting, like, let's get a teriyaki bowl. And he's like, I got a burger joint. Okay, we're going to a burger joint. Where are we going to eat next? I got this other burger joint.
Yeah.
Everywhere has fries that I go. That's what you need to know.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know.
Thank you for tuning in. And if we are providing value to you today, let me encourage you to subscribe and hit the bell. We have several bodybuilding podcasts that come out each week.
Okay. What's the next one, Scott? What do we got next?
What transformed bodybuilding? What machines transformed bodybuilding? We got that question the other week about why people aren't squatting anymore. Now they're using the pendulum squat. So the question was related to that. Like, what other machines have transformed the sport? Because guys aren't really squatting like they used to, but their legs are bigger than ever.
Right. I mean, I guess this depends on what era you start in. Like, what decade do you start looking at the transformation? I mean, I've sort of seen a slow, gradual move over the decades that I've been in bodybuilding, where certain things have shown up and been complete game changers. Like, I remember my first gym that I trained at for the first 4 years of my life. There were no plate loaded machines, like no hammer, like nothing like that. There was like leg presses and stuff, obviously plate loaded leg stuff, but no, like nothing on like an arc, no hammer rows, no hammer presses, no hammer shoulder press, no hammer, nothing. It was all pin loaded stacks. And then there was like, leg equipment.
Yep.
And so the pin-loaded hammer stuff came in, and that really transformed, the plate-loaded hammer stuff came in, and that really transformed chest and back training.
Right.
Chest and back training really took a huge, fork in the road when hammer machines showed up, and the whole concept of, like, things moving on an arc and, plate-loading stuff. And then with leg training, the pendulum was a huge one. I mean, the pendulum was around for a long time. I mean, Paramount made a pendulum back in the 90s, but it wasn't like, for some reason, it didn't get famous. Do we remember who, like, was it just Instagram that blew the pendulum up? Like, why did the pendulum suddenly have to get remade by Atlantis and Arsenal? And why did everyone start making... Was it Dusty? Did you single-handedly bring the pendulum back?
It's actually
you might be one of the guys.
Yeah,
I
think
funny,
you,
but
for real.
That was how our relationship with Atlantis started, was because Lance asked me what piece to get, because the gym was small, his money was small, and I was like, I want a pendulum, and he got one, and we started putting videos up, and Atlantis started selling them.
Really?
Yeah. And so they figured it out and worked backwards. Now, obviously, it was not just me. There's a lot of people, but it was enough that they mentioned it to him.
Really?
They were like, we're getting people reaching out now. And it's funny because that was going to be my answer to what machine changed bodybuilding. This one.
Yeah.
Because this machine
tells he's pointing
you,
at his phone, guys, for the audio
This machine
listeners.
tells you what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, not only are you seeing Derek Lunsford doing some weird row, and you're going, oh, wait, that's how he built his back like that. But like you have said a million times, Ron, back when we were starting, no one squatted 6 plates. So you would squat 4 because 4 was the most you'd seen.
Yeah.
Or if someone was doing it, if they had a pendulum, no one loads the pendulum. Well, then when you see some guy put a 7th plate on top of it and secure it, you're like, oh, okay, that's possible. It becomes a 4-minute mile. You know what I mean? So there are things that changed it because they're real. Like you said, bringing in the equipment that didn't exist. But I think the other side of it is just different views. I mean, Dante was one of the first ones that said, well, wait a minute. If you're going to train to absolute failure by yourself, then I don't think a barbell coming down on you and getting stuck is the best idea. Let's use a Smith machine chest press. Let's use a Slight Smith. Let's use a machine chest press. Like, let's use, so many options that he would just add on that were very, very key. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I would definitely say that those things are really what changed it. It's just because back in the day, I think, for lack of better terms, it was kind of like the old school thing. Like, if you don't squat, you're not a man.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, no, that's not the case. You know what I mean? Now guys are, Dorian was, I think he was one of the first ones that was like, I don't squat. And I think that
he had a hip
really
injury.
helped secure that it was okay. You know, when I was coming up, I squatted because you had to, and I was very good at it. I was very strong. And it took long to break through my peanut brain that my legs were not growing and I was moving more weight. And at some point you go, okay, well, are you a bodybuilder or are you training your ego? Because this isn't helping you.
You were a deep 6 plate for rep squatter, and
Yeah.
you were trying to bring your quads up.
Yeah, and all that happened was it was all hips and glutes and and adductors driving the weight up, and my quads would never be smoked. Then you start working your way down to a low foot hack squat or a low foot leg press for high reps, and I mean they would hurt for days. But again, it was that old school mentality that I came up under, which was like, you squat if you want big legs.
Yeah.
It took a while, So I think that those are all the things that have really helped the game, because people are seeing there's more than one way to put on the size.
Right.
I like that answer.
And yeah, the concept of like, I remember seeing a Paramount pendulum in a gym that I would occasionally train at.
Yeah.
And I never even thought to use it, because in my mind, I'm watching, Dorian train. He's using the hack and the press. I'm watching, I guess early Cutler videos. He's using the hack and the press. Like, you're just thinking, like, what do real bodybuilders use? Well, that looks like something chicks might use. You see a woman on it with a 25-pound plate, or you see a guy on it with a plate and a half, and you're like, oh, that's not enough. That's not enough load. Like, I'm using the hack. I can throw 6 plates on that. You know what I mean? Like, that was just my mentality. But then you see someone who's taken that exercise and progressed it up, and they start with it, and it's their main mass mover, and they're putting 5 plates on it, and you're like, oh shit, this looks like it's hard, And the whole variable resistance thing, like with the strength curve and stuff, how, anything that's on an arc, all the hammer machines, and of course the pendulum have a strength curve built into them. It's like being banded, but it's not,
Yep.
And we know now that that's kind of a factor. And I mean, John Meadows was all about that stuff. He was talking about all that shit for a whole decade, and so yeah, that stuff's all helped change bodybuilding. See guys like Lunsford. I mean, Lunsford still does his bent barbell rows, and he's still got like his free weight stuff in there. He's still doing the heavy stiff legs, and I saw a video of him like doing like 4 plate bent rows the other day or something, super strict, just like squeezing the crap out of things. But then there's all these cool, like, he's doing all this, like the chest support T-bar and the prime machines, and they're utilizing these tools. The prime stuff too, that's a factor that helps change the way people think, because of the strength curve again, customizing your strength curve. You got long arms, you might want it to feel a little bit different than a guy with short arms. Like the pendulum for me is a lot heavier than the pendulum for Sean Clarita. Because he's not passing through the 90-degree point where the arm is level with the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Because anything that's on an arm, as it comes up, once it becomes level with the floor, it's at its maximum load.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And Clarita doesn't pass through that range. He's in the bottom, 2/3 of my range, or bottom half of my range.
Right.
So 5 or 6 plates to him. I mean, he's still heavy as shit. I'm not taking away from what he's doing, but it's that's where customizing the strength curve on a prime machine comes in, because taller guys might want something to load at a different point in the arc than a shorter guy. So yeah, there's all this all this sort of thinking man stuff that has come into the training that does make a difference, and it is important especially for more advanced guys. Like obviously I'm not going to cloud a beginner's brain with all this all this stuff. I think beginners probably better off getting in there and just loading up some bars.
Gravity.
But, use gravity, put on 50 pounds, come back to me when you're squatting 3 plates for reps, and we'll get a little bit more complicated with your situation. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
Agree.
I'll add in the hip thrust machine just for, all the wonderful glutes out there nowadays. It's a completely different world that didn't even exist, whatever, 15 years ago. I know you can do barbell hip thrusts, but, they got popular and then the hip thrust machine became a thing. So I'll throw that in there.
Hip thrusts are definitely a thing.
All of us who like the Smith to be open are grateful that hip thrust machines exist.
Yes. So I know there's some people that say the hip thrust is stupid, and if you squat and lunge, you don't need a hip thrust. If you deadlift, you don't need a hip thrust. I understand that. But we do have studies that show at least athletic improvement of certain things with a hip thrust over other exercises. So that's pretty interesting research. I think I told you guys about the thing they did with all those college athletes. And again, studies that are done on regular people are I just try to dismiss most of those. But these were all college athletes. They had one group squat and the other group do hip thrusts.
Yeah.
And then they tested both groups on vertical jump and long jump. And the group they both got better in both. So they both got better. They both got better verticals, and they both got better long jumps. But the group that squatted improved their vertical more than the other group. And the group that hip thrusted improved their long jump more than the squatting group.
Huh.
So it was interesting. There's definite athletic application to having a lot of power through that movement. So yeah, just, a little food for thought.
Absolutely.
How about this one, guys? Eric asks us, he says, what has made you or would make you turn around and leave the gym?
Yeah, man, that would I don't really know if I would ever, if I'm there to train, if it's chest and bicep day or whatever, I don't know if anything could make me leave the gym. I mean, a huge crowd of kids filming videos, I would still find a way to train unless
sewage problem.
I don't know. I'd probably still be like, well, I got 45 minutes. I could piss outside. I don't know.
No, I mean the smell of sewage in the gym. I'm leaving.
Some obscene, an obscene toxic smell. Yeah, like a chemical smell. Something that I couldn't handle would do it. But I guess if it was leg day and the leg section was taped off because someone got murdered, that might be something. But yeah, I don't know if anything would ever really make me leave the gym. I hear people say I went in there and, there were these people in there that were annoying. I just left. And I'm like, the fuck?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? It's ridiculous.
I'd say the closest I've come would be having taken insulin and then dropping your intra-workout shake. But you can find
a life and death situation. That's
you can find a way
there's
around
no
that.
Carb drinks in the cooler. You go to the cooler and the carb drink shelf is just empty. You're like, fuck, they got diet.
There's a way
pop.
around that. There's a way around that.
You got Gatorade Zeros and Diet Pop. And you got 10 IUs of Humalog in your system. You're like, shit.
I'm on the clock.
I'm on the clock. I guess I'll go to the gas station right now.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
No, I would agree. There's nothing I would leave the gym with other than the fact that I did learn later in life to not always force a workout. But there have been times, honestly, late in my career, I should have left workouts that I didn't. Early in my career, I should have left 100 workouts that I didn't. But and by leave, I mean just those days you could feel like you walk in the gym, your hips a little tight. And then you're starting to dance around and you're pushing around. And even if you finish it, it's just to check a box.
Yeah.
Whereas if I would leave, call my PT, get it fixed, I can come back tomorrow and annihilate the workout. I did definitely learn that because I learned by being injured when I was young and would just do it anyways. Because I shouldn't even say it when I was in the middle. When I was young, it never really hurt me. It just made for a lesser workout. Then you hit that middle line, and all of a sudden you're getting hurt because you're an idiot. And then you get older, and you go, because at least myself, I don't know about you, Ron, but anytime I got injured, not bad, but had some form of injury that kind of ended a workout, I got a warning or two from my body during the workout. You shouldn't do this. I was like, shouldn't do that.
There's always a warning. There's always a warning if you're listening,
Yeah. So, but that'd be the only thing that would make me leave. And I actually had that last week. You'll love this, but I started a new program that I wrote out for myself. And I just got the order of the training mixed up in my head. And I drove to the gym and I was prepared to pull. And it was a leg day.
You're kidding me.
And I was like, okay, that's fine. I mean, they're both 2 heavy days. I looked, I was like, oh, I don't have my shoes. And I train in squat shoes because it helps me get comfortable with depth. I was like, that's okay. I'll use the wedge. Okay, that's fine. Oh, I don't have my knee sleeves.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I can probably, and I started warming up and I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, no. I literally just went over. I looked at Nikki. I'm like, doing cardio, doing this tomorrow. Like, you're not here for this. And I'm very good about this usually. And even like today, I did it again. I was thinking to myself, it was a pull day. I think I just love pull day, so I always think it's pull day. and it was a push day. But I found out at my table, so it's fine. I wrote out the workout. You get your mind locked in, you're good to go. But yeah, that happened last week. I was like, this is not going to be a good day. I'm irritated by 9 things, so we'll do it tomorrow.
I just did that with triceps. I was supposed to do shoulders and triceps, and I did shoulders. And then one of the clients that I was going to look at, he came early to the gym because we just got our times mixed up on the chat. I thought he was showing up at like 5:30 or whatever, and he showed up at 4:30. And so I was like, well, I'll just go have a quick look. I'll go have a look at him because I was going to have a look at him. I'll do triceps. So I went and looked at him, and it was like, 8 minutes. Chris Cito says it takes 9 minutes a week, but I took 8 minutes. And then we went back downstairs, and then my phone rang, and it was the plumber, and I was waiting for the plumber to call me all day. And I was like, so then I was on the phone, and I had to go check something. I'm describing it to the plumber, sending him a video, and I got this issue with one of the toilets. So anyways, and then I come out of there, and there's 2 people that have come into the gym, and the staff's real busy making shakes, and they want a tour. So I'm like, I'll show them around the gym. So I take them, I show around the gym, talking to them, and they were really cool. So I was really like making sure they were like telling them everything.
Let me ask you though, at this point, you still hadn't given up. Like you're still thinking at this stage. I'm
still thinking I got triceps.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
my ass.
And then I'm thinking, and then I'm thinking, okay, like at this stage, I might get home. By the time I get home and cook dinner, I got to go Safeway, get groceries. I might miss sweatpant cutoff. And I don't want to miss sweatpant cutoff. So maybe I should do triceps tomorrow. If I get to Safeway, then, I still got a good evening ahead of me. So I thought I'd do triceps tomorrow. So I just came in the next day and did triceps first thing. Hammered them. It was good.
I just love that there's only 2 people on the show that really understand what sweatpant cutoff is.
I didn't know what sweatpant cutoff is. I was waiting to ask.
I already know. When I saw Scott's face, I'm like, Scott doesn't know what sweatpant cutoff is.
It gets a little too late for her. She's like, it's a little too late. The sweatpants are done. Sweatpants are cut. They're tied up tight. I'm basically I'm going to bed in these.
Okay, I got you. I got you.
I was watching Scott's face the whole time, and I'm like, oh, we're gonna have to explain this one.
That's good. That's good.
I
learned something.
If it's like 10:45 at night, you could be like, hey, babe, I was thinking. She's like, I'm getting up at 7.
There's a bunch of people nodding at home, men and women right now.
I don't know anything about
this. If you're in a
this.
long-term relationship,
Sweatpant cutoff is she's got a double knot going right now. That's it.
We both work from home, so the ship sailed by then. We're on to we're on to like our Apple and watching TV. At that point.
Once you're into Apple, it's over with. The Apple is post.
So Apple is not foreplay.
Yeah, Apple is as post play. That's it. If you do the Apple, there's nothing. Yeah, it's a good. Yeah.
You're restoring glycogen. It's not a pre-workout.
Yeah, you're restoring glycogen. Yeah, exactly.
Good to know.
People in brand new relationships might not know about sweatpant cutoff, but
there is no cutoff, or there will be.
Yeah. Once you have 2 dogs and multiple businesses going, it's there's a cutoff.
There's absolutely a cutoff.
What movie is that? What Jason Bateman movie is that where he's rushing home? It's like 9. It's like 8:40 and he's like rushing home for the 9 o'clock cutoff, and he gets there like 9:01 and he rushes in the door, and she comes down the stairs after, and she does up her sweatpants like, hey baby, how's it going? And she pulls him tight, and the camera zooms in on her pulling him tight, and he's like,
That's amazing.
And that's the thing. That's the thing.
Okay.
This is an educational show, by the way, for those who are wondering.
Yeah.
All right. Somebody asked us what our basically our evolution of training. I feel like that could be an entire podcast on its own. I don't know how we want to break this one down.
I can describe mine. I'll keep it like short. Lee Haney magazine workouts for the first 2 years. Then I discovered Dorian.
Yeah.
Then I discovered Dorian in like 91. And then it was full on Dorian, like cult like devotion to Dorian training from about 92 to about 2003.
Nasty.
For like 11 years, it was like absolute blood and guts, cult devotion, no variance, no anything else. It was
basically
like,
every time you walked in the gym, everything went black and white. Every time.
I lived my life in black and white. I had the "What Would Dorian Do" tattoo on my arm. You know,
yeah.
And you know, I went from high school kid to by the time 2003 rolled around, I think I hit 320 for the first time in 2003. Big Burger King D-ball 320. So it produced results over that decade. And I'm not saying I looked like him, but I definitely put on some mass with a capital M. And then I started realizing that certain body parts weren't growing like I'd hoped. Everyone was like, God, you're huge. But I was like, my arms aren't huge yet. Like I really need to put an inch on my arms, and I really need thicker back. And then that was when I started doing more volume. And I actually had a phase where I went to volume training, almost like fully went to volume training for a little while. But it was like a couple years, but I had to learn that you couldn't do the same sets. Like
I remember I had workouts with volume.
Yeah. So I when I first switched over to volume, I just got so messed up. And I was like, oh, I guess you don't do forced reps on every single friggin' set. And I backed off, and I kind of played with volume training for a while, and I realized that I got results from it. Like I did. Yeah. I did. My physique got better. I brought body parts up. I trained back twice a week for a while. I had some variation there. And I wound up kind of settling into a 5-day split for the last, several years of my career, where I basically did Dorian split, but I had an arm day, and I wound up hitting arms twice a week. And, sometimes I'd hit back twice a week. And yeah, and I wound up kind of doing like Dorian philosophy generally, but with more volume for certain body parts and a little bit more of an open mind. That's kind of run the gamut. And now that I'm retired, I've returned to like basically a Dorian style layout with, not as many intensifiers, and I seem to be maintaining a physique quite easily. Beautiful. So that's the whole thing. That's 30 years of training in minute and a half.
That was a really long minute and a half.
Yeah. I got no sense of time.
Oh God, that's classic. What about you, Scott? What was your angle?
I'd say I started with Weider principles all the way, and when I was a kid, you know what I mean. And then
chalk.
Oh yeah, and then went to I'd call it the the mid 2000s Ronnie Coleman splits where there's a lot of volume, one body part. Everybody calls it the bro split. Went into that. Got hurt a lot, like so many times, and then went into mountain dog stuff. And the mountain dog stuff lasted for most of my training, and then I got into more heavy progressive overload after that. And if I could fast forward it to the heavy progressive overload, I would do that. If I could do it all again, but I think I really did take me learning everything I learned along the way to get where I eventually needed to be, where I could become like truly strong, But that's where I started making my absolute best progress, was with the heavy progressive overload stuff. And now I train to have fun at this point. I'm happy to get a good workout in, get a good pump, feel good, and it makes the rest of my day feel good too. You know, I love the feeling of like getting a good workout in. It's just like, I don't know if it's the endorphins or what, but like the rest of my day, I'm just like, man, I love my life, and I'm, you know, doing check-ins and editing podcasts and hanging out with the wife, and we're having a good time. It's like I don't that's my life, and it's just to feel good now, I guess. That's what I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I want to get into better shape now again, but, you know, that's just a byproduct of it all.
Absolutely.
Was that a minute? Was that a minute?
Absolutely. It was
That
great.
was pretty tight and tight. Yes, I thought that was tight and tight.
Tighter than me.
It's good. You know.
Well, you had a bigger career than me, Ron. You needed more time.
A long time at your age. Like that? So mine is quick, which was learn to train just hard, because that was from playing sports. Just do everything as hard as you can. Do it too hard, do too much. Get some guidance. Learn to taper that down a little bit. Fortunately, JJ Marsh is one of my huge mentors in that process. So he definitely pushed training really, really hard. Eventually, I don't know if you'd call it conned or nagged or finagled, but I got Dante to train me. That was tricky. It was all those things, but getting into DC training, getting into progressive overload was game changing. Obviously, I think I really do believe the only reason that I had a career and made it as a pro was him in that training. Very, very key. And then once I got kind of retired, I started just playing around with training and enjoying training. And it wasn't very successful. And literally a couple of weeks ago, I was like, I'm going to go back to progressive overload with a logbook. And I look completely different already. I should never, ever sneak away from that, even for a minute. Having a logbook, writing it down, and beating numbers, I could tell a difference in my physique in 2 weeks. It's drastic. So that just works for me. And I think it's interesting, but essentially, Ron and I both have a story of getting away from what worked and going back. So when you find what works for you, I think you got to stay there. And I'm having so much more fun in the gym again because I'm going in with my little short mindset. I can't, I get distracted easily. I'm like a 2-year-old. So going in and saying, I got one movement chest, do it. And then I move on to shoulders, do it. And then do tries, do it. And then, oh, cool, I can do one more for chest. That really works for me. So it's absolutely something I have to stick with. And it works in every way, mentally and physically. So I suggest if you find what works, stick to it. And if anybody tells you it doesn't work, well, they're wrong.
Hi, girl.
Nova came to say hello. She knows what works for her as well.
Yes, she does, especially in that household.
All right, I got one way off topic here from Lucas. He says, who would you choose if you could be friends with a fictional character? Oh, look at her.
She's amazing. Friends with a fictional character. Well, a lot of my favorite fictional characters are very unstable people, so I don't know if I really want that in my life.
Yeah,
I'd like to be friends with Han Solo. Who doesn't want to be friends with a space smuggler? Just imagine the stories he'd have when he came over for barbecue. You know?
Yeah, as long as he didn't bring any trouble with him, that could be a
well,
problem.
I'll tell you, it's hard. He's trouble follows him wherever he goes.
I picked Donald Trump.
Imagine him calling you up.
Or Dusty Hanshaw, one of the two.
Hey, Scotty.
I guess I didn't get the concept.
Let's play a fictional character. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. A fictional character. Ah, man. Well, that's a good one. They'd have to have some money so they're fun. I don't want to. I don't need any more broke friends.
Dusty, you're on mute.
Dusty's muted. Dusty's muted.
It's probably
We're missing
better.
his gems. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those few were probably good. They slipped out.
I guess Iron Man. Be friends with Iron Man.
Yeah. That'd be
Robert
a good one.
Downey Jr. from Iron Man.
Nice
That'd be
choice.
cool. Hey, Ron, what are you doing? Nothing. What are you doing? Just going to go for a cruise, grab a Starbucks. Want to get a coffee? Sure. I don't know. What do you do when you're friends with Iron Man?
So I'm going to travel back in time.
Okay, you can
to
do
have
that.
my friendship because
I never thought.
I want to be friends with Bodie
Oh,
If you remember
Point
the
Break?
classic movie Point Break. I want a guy to show up at my door and be like, come on, let's go. And I'm like, oh, here we go.
We're going surfing and we might die.
Yeah.
Jumping out of an airplane just
Jumping out
because.
of a plane today.
Maybe robbing a
If you
bank.
don't
Who
jump,
knows?
we
Robbing a
might kill you.
bank. Yeah,
And you have to
just
trust us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched
God.
that movie when I was a kid, and I'm like, this guy is amazing.
That movie was
yeah.
pretty cool. That was a good movie.
You know, they didn't remake it, but they made like a Point Break new version. No,
Really?
no.
I've got it on VHS somewhere. I don't know how I'll
yeah.
ever watch that again, but it's at this house.
I might watch it tonight because of this conversation.
We'll get him when he comes back in.
Exactly. He's not coming.
He's not coming back in. Yeah.
Tear. So yeah, that's mine.
Tear.
That's a good one. That's a good call. I like that. I'm still going with Donald Trump. That's my fictional character. I'd like to be friends with. Yeah.
I love it.
All right.
Maybe Quagmire from Family Guy.
I didn't even think you could pick cartoons. You'd have some stories for you. Yeah. All right. How about this one? Question for that. So, okay, no, wait. We already did one of his questions, so I'm going to find somebody else here. Oh, just a comment here. Somebody said, you guys are awesome. Thank you for the show. And please bring Mutant on a Mission to Spain.
Oh, damn. Yeah,
I thought that'd be like,
idea too.
Yeah, like especially
coming.
if we all came. Yeah, exactly. How about that one?
I've been coming a lot lately. I've been like weaseling my way into that show regularly.
Yeah,
good. It helps me out. Dusty understands me. You can train with me.
Exactly.
What's your preference on training traps? Is it with back or is it with delts, and why?
I always used to do, so I always did my, back in the barbell shrug days when I had like, I don't know if I've told you guys a few times, but I did have rather large traps in high school. Like they came right away. Like everyone was like, as soon as I was a couple years into lifting, everyone's like, your neck, what happened to your neck? And, I was deadlifting and barbell rowing and everything, but I was doing heavy shrugs because that's just what everyone did back then, rattling plates. Jinga, 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 jing. You get that noise in the corner, someone shrugging 4 plates. And I always did shrugs on back day because I just thought like your traps are part of your back. When you look at a back double bicep, your traps are part of your back. It wasn't until I saw the Dorian video, Blood and Guts, when he does shrugs on shoulder day that I was like, oh, I never thought of that. But I usually didn't do that because I did rear delts on shoulder day, and Dorian does rear delts on back day. So I was the opposite. I always did rear delts as part of shoulders. And, but it's funny, I haven't done shrugs in years. Like I did stop training my traps completely. When I started having like, vertebrae issues in my neck, I started thinking maybe I don't need to do shrugs anymore. You know what I mean? But my traps get really sore from shoulder day, from pressing and side laterals and everything. And so it keeps a lot of muscle there. Yeah.
So I never trained to traps because if you're deadlifting a ton of weight, you're training traps. Mm-hmm. If you're rowing a ton of weight, you're training traps. I think people forget that traps ride piggyback on you.
Yeah,
they're not just here down. They go way down. It's like the second largest muscle in your body or top group. I mean, it's up there with one of your biggest muscles, so it's a lot bigger than people realize. I also found, because I don't have particularly wide clavicles, that if my traps got too big, I looked more narrow. It was definitely something to be mindful of while I was building my physique. It was like, because people would ask about my traps already, and I'm thinking if I were to train them, they would grow, and then I would have even more of a problem. So never train them direct. I just found if there's 800 pounds on a bar and it's on the ground, you pick it up, they're getting worked. You're good.
Yeah. I had a coach, Scott Abel. He was like really ahead of his time in a lot of ways. Absolutely. And he's actually one of the guys that told me he's like, don't bother doing shrugs. You don't need to do them. Your traps are getting hammered in all these other ways. He also said that he thought it was bullshit to purposely depress your scaps on side raises to try to not use your traps. He's like, the best contraction of your upper trap is with your arm out in a side lateral and your shoulders up behind your ears. Interesting. So because when you drop your arms and your scapulas go down, you don't have as much bite. Like if you really want to feel your traps, really squeeze, raise your arms out, right? So he said that's the truest contraction of the upper traps. So he said when you side raise, don't be afraid to bring everything up, side delts, everything right up behind your ears, and just nail the whole area, like just nuke everything, and then you don't need to train traps because they're trained. So, and I was like, oh, and I always felt great for me. And whenever I tried to not use my traps on side raises, I always felt like it was kind of unnatural for my shoulders. Like sometimes I'd get pain in there trying to like force the shoulders down, but still do a side raise. So I always like bring my laterals right up, like, my cable one arms, like, and if you watch Dorian on Blood and Guts do cable one arms, he does the same thing. Like his arm comes right up behind his ear and he's not afraid to engage everything. And so, yeah, I never really cared about that.
I think that's why you see a lot of, I'm saying women particularly, but trap dominant women is because they aren't doing their laterals with their delts. They're doing them with their traps.
Yeah, their delt isn't even really moving.
Yeah, it's not even a part of the thing, and that's something I see a ton. And you're thinking she doesn't do any shrugs, but it looks like it's all she does because they don't know how to engage both. So they're literally pulling the weight up with their traps and momentum. Those two things are the only thing moving it.
If you look at how much the humerus is actually moving in the shoulder joint, it's like a half of the range that it should be. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Key.
Okay.
You know how I think of when I think of traps is Wayne from Letterkenny. I'm going to pull this picture up. This is like Canadian farmer traps right here.
Oh, yeah.
Just look at the neck.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's
like
boy. Yeah, like I've been tossing bales every summer for my dad, and now I'm playing hockey.
Yeah.
That's
what I pictured on you, Ron, when you were like, my traps just grew when I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's like
you worked at a farm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cheated.
Yeah. Everyone on our defense had a neck like that.
I bet because it's also a hockey thing too. So that's probably part of where you got that, Dusty. If you're a hockey player, you just got to have traps. Dusty had one. Where was that? Okay, we had a guy. He's been yo-yo dieting for the last decade. He's trying to break out of that. And one of the questions he asked is, should he get a coach to break this cycle?
You want to go first, Dusty?
Sure. So here's the thing. For some people, getting a coach will help you because you now have a financial investment in doing what you say you want to do. The only reason in his case that I say no is because part of the question was that he has lost 100 pounds 3 times and put it all back on. So it's not that he can't commit to the process. It's that he can't stay locked in with it. And realistically, something that I think people should really consider is when you're living your life, your decisions every day. I'm actually going to pull something up real quick. So, because Tommy actually wrote this yesterday. I'm hoping it's still there. There it is. This is great. He put this up last night. Through coaching and life in general, I have learned that the hardest thing people face overall is commitment to themselves. They make so many choices in a given day that dishonor a commitment that they want to make to themselves, that they have stated to self and others. They then justify these choices to self or to let others who do the same thing justify it for them. It creates a distraction so they never have to face the fact they're not honoring a commitment to their own self. It's an ongoing cycle. Just know this. Every choice you make tomorrow, he wrote 9-2 because that's today, honors or dishonors a commitment that you've made to yourself. Slow down and think about it all day and your eyes will be open. And that's exactly how I think this person needs to look at it. It's really, really simple. I remind my clients that all the time. What you do today, when you think you want a cheat meal, just say to yourself, before you put it in your mouth, this is not what I said I wanted long term.
Yeah.
Do I want it so bad right now that I'm willing to go against what I say I want long term? And I don't say that to beat someone up. I actually say that to decide if you really want what you think you want. Trust me, there was many times in Ron's career where he was looking at a plate of food that he was not hungry to eat, but it had to go down. That's just the way it is. If you think any great bodybuilder, anybody who's taken their physique or athlete or someone who went to school. You think they're like, oh, I'm so excited to crack the books tonight. I love doing it every night. No, but winners win. You make the decisions for your long-term goals. So for me, for that person, it's really simple. The coach isn't the problem. It's you. You got to own it. Why do I keep doing this? And that may not be in your hands, not to take this way too far off, but you might need some assistance from a counselor or something to figure out why, because it's a very common thing when what you want and the actions you're living don't line up and you're not an idiot and you know that, you might need to figure out why.
Yeah. It's hard for me to add much. I mean,
I talked a lot.
It could be as simple as you just need some accountability, but it's probably not. If you've been doing this for 10 years over and over, then there's an underlying issue as to why you keep like giving up the progress you've made. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I hate losing ground. Like, I hate it. Like, there's times when, like I was working on a guitar solo and I was playing the solo and I could play the whole thing and I was playing it without messing up. It wasn't perfect, but I was playing it and then I didn't play guitar for like 3.5 weeks. And then I went back to play it again and I'm like, oh, fuck. It's like, it's all over the place now. And it irritated the shit out of me. I was like, fuck, I lost ground on that. Like, I hate losing ground. Like, I want to keep what I earn. You know what I mean? And you'll lose. Like, everything has to be maintained. If you want a nice lawn, it has to be maintained. You can't just make the lawn nice and then leave it.
Yep.
Like, you have to go out there every Sunday and you have to do something. Like, if you want to have a clean house, you have to clean it all the time. If you want to be in shape, you have to think that you want to be in shape all the time. And a lot of people have this, oh, I'll just get it and then I have it. So they lose 30 pounds. And like, yeah, I lost 30 pounds. And it's like, oh, well, get ready. It's coming right back. Because you just you just dropped your guard. You just put your hands down. And now you're just going to get punched in the face with donuts for 6 months. And you're going to be 30 pounds heavier. And, so it's everything in life needs to be maintained. If you want a successful business, you can't just build it up and then walk away from it and let it run itself. You have to keep going in every day and keep on top of it and keep looking at the books and keep paying attention to all those things. And that's just like, life never stops. It never stops. And if you want to accumulate or progress or do anything like that, it's nonstop. Like, that's why I force myself to do my hobbies. Like, I don't always feel like playing guitar. I don't always feel like going out on my bike. I don't always feel like doing sprints on the bike. I don't always feel like cardio. But there's things I want to maintain and keep. There's a standard that I need to keep all the time because it carries over through everything in your life. And so that's just how I think. Like, nothing maintains itself. And if you think the universe is in a constant state of decay, you know what I mean? Like, like, have you seen those documentaries? Like, what would happen if humans disappeared? You know those things? Have you seen those? Like,
oh yeah,
yeah. Well, how long does it take for the city to just become jungle?
Come to Detroit, like, for real. Some of the parts of Detroit that have literally been like retaken by nature
in like what, 20 years?
Oh yeah.
Nature just took buildings in Detroit.
Trees growing up through buildings,
growing through the floor. Nothing stays, and everything needs to be maintained. Every single day you get up, you have to continue to do what you do, or it will go away. So that's my thought.
Yeah, and I think too, you got to stay plugged in with like what Dusty was saying with what you want, because like it's got to be still satisfying. Like some of that sounds kind of like on the surface miserable, Ron. Like, I don't always want to do this, but I do it. But it is still satisfying to you though, because your satisfaction comes in having that skill, improving that skill, being good at the thing that you enjoy doing.
My satisfaction comes from the next brick I can add.
Yeah.
But in order to add another brick, you have to maintain like what you have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't add another brick unless you keep going out there and keep, working on your thing, and maintaining it is also how you progress. Like it's all part of the same process, like going out there and doing it again and staying on top of it. And, so constantly trying to get better at everything.
Well, plus you don't, when you go out to ride the bike, you didn't really feel like riding. You feel good about it when you're done. It's the same with cardio. You feel better even on those days.
Not even done. I find one of my favorite quotes is Michael Jordan. He said there's lots of days where he doesn't feel like working out, but he has a deal. He made a deal with himself. I'll go to the gym, I'll get dressed, and I'll tie my shoes. And if I don't feel like training, I'll go home. And he never goes home.
Right.
And that's how it is. Like once I get my knee pads on and I get my bike to the spot, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And like once you get your headphones in and you get your music on, the workout's great. Once you might want to have pizza, but once you get your egg whites and your oatmeal cooked, you're like, fuck, this is a great meal.
Yeah.
It's always that like right before that's the hard part.
That's why with food, I think it's so important to be prepared.
Yes.
It's very simple for people, but the moment that you want something that you shouldn't have, if your correct food is ready and you eat it, you're fine. But if you have to leave the house to go get the food that you're supposed to get, you're in a real dangerous spot right now. Because it's faster to pull into Burger King than it is to grab the food, come back home and cook. And it's something people do all the time. I hammer it to clients. It's like, do not ever be to the point where you're hungry and you don't have your food.
Yes.
You're in trouble.
Yeah.
I've always thought it's so funny when I've been in a contest prep, and then after the show is over, the day that I recognize, like, I could actually pull in there and eat that right now. Like, that would be okay if I did that. Like, I forget that it's an option. Like, because you're just like so programmed it as not being a thing. And there's like this, you walk in the grocery store and you're like, I could buy those cookies. I don't necessarily always. Sometimes I buy them, but sometimes I'm just like, sometimes I don't. I'm just like, oh man, look at that donut rack. I could get those donuts right now. Well, fuck, I'll get one.
I used to tell people, well, I still tell people, but I used to like make it like a big deal to tell everyone, like, always have 2 scoops of whey isolate in a shaker and a little bag with some rice cakes in it. Always have that in your gym bag at all times. And then if you're driving home, like, and it's not supposed to be your next meal. If you always have your next meal with you too, but I'm saying you get caught in traffic, you're on your way home and the highway is blocked off and you're sitting there for an hour and you're losing it and there's a McDonald's and you're like, you've got a shake, you've got some carbs, you've got like a clean meal that you can stay on track with. You have an emergency meal, especially if you're prepping, always have an emergency meal on hand, something that'll get you through so you can check that box and go, I've fed myself, I'm good.
Yeah. And it might not like be satisfying like the burger was or whatever, but once you actually consume the clean meal, then you'll stop and you'll be like, oh yeah, I don't, maybe I still want that, but I don't have the same level of craving that I did when I was actually hungry,
At least some of the chemical stuff, like the signals in your brain, they'll all get hit. Those aminos hit you and everything. Yeah. Yep.
Hey, what was that TV show you were talking about, Ron? You said you wanted to.
I got a TV show recommendation, and it's like an oddball one that I hadn't heard of before, and it's not a famous show, so I thought I'd throw it out at everybody.
Good, because we're looking for one right now.
So a friend of mine who is like batting 1,000 on recommending shows, like every single show he's recommended us, and it's for Emily and I, like, so every single show that him and his wife have watched that he's recommended, we have liked. So we finished season 2 of Reacher and we had fun with it. It was a fun show, and, I said, I need something else. And he goes, you need to watch Mr. Inbetween. And I was like, Mr. Inbetween. It's a low budget Australian TV show.
Oh,
and
they've got some weird TV over there.
And it's about a hitman. He's like a low level kind of a scumbag hitman. He works at a strip club, but he's also a hitman for a gangster. And there's 3 seasons, but the first 2 seasons are on Disney Plus. It's an FX show. So I don't know where to find the third season yet. We don't quite need it yet. We're still in season 2. But the guy who stars in it also wrote it. He wrote the script. He sold it. He stars in it. He's fantastic. He's perfect. He wrote it for himself to play.
This guy, I assume.
This guy. And I have a feeling.
This is so fitting already.
I have a feeling that his life was a little close to home on this character. Like he must have grown up knowing these guys or grown up working with them at the bar or something, because it is fantastic. And also for me, there's a whole bunch of like crazy, like it's so Aussie. So some of the slang they use and, you know, just the cars they drive and the way it looks, I'm like, oh man, I like it's in Sydney. And I'm like, Jesus, like, you know, the neighborhoods they're naming. I'm like, oh yeah, I've been there. Like it's really funny, but it's a great show. It's really well written. It's character driven, and the episodes are only 24 minutes. It's like quick hit. So you can just plow through it. It's easy to watch. You know, he's got a brother and he's got a daughter and an ex-wife. So there's all like a bit of a complication. And then he, you know, his boss at the club is also like a pretty heavy gangster. He's like, you know, he's running books. He's a bookie, you know, guys betting on races and stuff that owe him money and you know, drug dealing and all this sort of stuff. So he takes jobs, as we'll put it. He takes jobs. He does jobs for this guy. And of course, he's got a girlfriend. He can't tell her what he does. She thinks he bounces at a club, you know. And
he's making a lot of money for a guy that bounces at a club.
Yeah, it's good. There's some great scenes, and it's also a bit refreshing. Like Reacher was fun. Reacher was a lot of fun, but there's like kind of that silly side of Reacher where there's like a machine gun fight, and people are hiding behind cars.
Okay, yeah,
right. Where we know how that really goes. If you shoot a submachine gun through it just goes right through the van and kills everybody on the other side, right?
Yeah.
So like, you know, so in this show it's a lot more realistic. Like there's some gun play, and it's like, oh damn, okay, they're not TV in this. This is like how it would be.
How it works, yeah.
How it works, yeah. So it's I like that. It's good. You know, like they say in real life, most fights only last 5 seconds, right?
Yeah.
You know, there's right. They're not like kung fu fights in movies, right? And that's more how this is. And he's got a temper problem. One of the funny things about the show is he's also got to go to anger management because of court. So every like second episode, there's a little scene where he's kind of sitting in anger management, and you know, yeah, you know, like how are you this week, Ray? Bashed a cunt. Why? Well, he had it coming. You know, like there's always someone at the supermarket says something to him, or you know, it's he's got a problem. But the character's really well written. The way he sees the world is very sensible. Like you're kind of on his side. You're like, yeah, you do make the world a better place. That guy did have it coming. Like he is gonna think twice before he. Yeah, well, he's the voice, and he's the voice in all of our heads, Dusty. That's why you relate. Yeah, that's why the character's so relatable, because he lives in my head. The things he thinks, I'm like, God damn, that's what I think. You know, So yeah, it's good. But Mr. Inbetween, great cast. Everyone in it's awesome. His brother-in-law's a scumbag. There's a lot of like, they're all crims. Everyone's it's a good they've written a good little world there, so I recommend it to everybody.
We'll have to check it out.
Everyone jump in on this.
Yeah,
it's fun, man. I know Scott Wesson's gonna watch it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna start that right after I watch Point Break tonight.
Yeah. Mr. Inbetween. You thank me later. You know, give it a couple episodes, he gets going. So
there we go.
Okay.
What do we think?
I think that's about all we had. I think we got all the listener questions.
I think that's a
Is
solid
that an
episode.
You're telling me that's an actual episode?
That was an episode.
That's all it takes.
Okay, we can call that. Remember, everybody, like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
And you know, IamMutant.com, Dusty20, Big Ron 20. Get your all in, get your ISO surgeon. Everyone should get on the gear. Lots of gear. The more gear, the better, including your grandma. Get some gear for your grandma.
And
Don't forget your grandma. Yeah, and some creatine. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Remember the Think Big Bodybuilding Patreon. Keep a producer homed.
Thank you, guys.
Keep all the shows going.
Oh, I want to throw something out there, too. I should have said it earlier. I'm doing a contest for people who listen on iTunes. So for iTunes people, for the next month, if you leave us a good 5-star review on iTunes, you will automatically be entered into the contest, and one of you guys are going to win a t-shirt. So for all we know, you'll literally be the only person that enters. You could be the person that gets the shirt without even having to try. So
slam dunk.
Plus that stuff helps us. It helps us out because then other people are more likely to see the show if we have good reviews. So
if it goes well, we might start giving away more shirts, right, Scott?
That'd be cool. I'd love that.
That'd be good. Okay. So thanks. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
There we go. One more time.
Nice.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. And remember, it's just bodybuilding.